The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, callers, and advisors on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of the management, ownership, or production unit of ILS, the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be represented in part or entirety without the express written consent of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2026. All rights reserved.
Coming up tonight, many gathered to pay tribute to the fallen 10. We're live at tonight's memorial. Also tonight, why did aviation authorities allow the multiple-time grounded Flamingo Air to continue flying? Also, many residents vexed at the power outages that continue to happen here in the capital and elsewhere. And later on this evening, BAxIN is here to talk about aviation regulations and safety and where the loopholes are. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Family, friends, fans, and loved ones gathering at this hour to honor the memory of members of DuPont Band whose lives were lost in that fatal Independence Day crash. Travis Johnson and Toniqua Gillott formerly sang with the Pond Band, while Giovanni McKenzie, Mateo Winder, and Rashad Storr played keyboard, guitar, and bass. Laurencia Smith is at that memorial right now at the entertainment site formerly known as DuPont Grounds. Laurencia, good evening to you. Please give us an idea of how things are unfolding right now.
Come on, worship.
That's right, Shanique. We're here at DuPont. Tonight is a night of celebration for the Candlelight Memorial for the life and legacy of those band members of DuPont that passed. But speaking to officials, it's not just about them, it's about all 10 of the victims who would have lost their life in that tragic Flamingo Air crash on Independence Day. And right now, we are a few minutes out before that actual memorial is set to kick off. Right now, it is a time of praise and worship. We can tell you, if my cameraman could give you a glimpse, would you see persons out here right now waving their flashlights, and they're just basking in praise and worship, celebrating the lives of their loved ones. Now, as we know that memorial is set to kick off at the 8 o'clock hour, and according to officials, tonight will be a night of praise and worship and celebration of the legacy of those individuals who tragically lost their lives in that plane crash back on Independence Day. As we know, 5 of those members were members of the Pond Band, but as I said, they said tonight is about celebrating their lives. As you know, I've had a chance to speak to members of the band, and they said it's all about ensuring that they remember the legacy of their loved ones. So we'll definitely keep you posted. So stay tuned to all of the social media platforms for highlights of tonight's memorial here at the Pond. Back to you at the Destiny.
Thank you very much, Laurencia Smith, at that memorial service that's happening right now at DuPont. Meanwhile, several airline incidents with Flamingo Air over the years has left many questioning why civil aviation took so long to shut down or at least suspend the airline's operations. But a recent investigation revealed that the airline was suspended once before. Linton Ritchie Jr. has the story.
Flamingo Airlines was grounded for a period between the years of 2023 and 2024, its first official suspension from operating, though public searches showed no records of that suspension.
I remember me personally suspending their AOC certificate before. That would have been, I think, in 2023 or 2024. And so, you know, to say that they was never suspended before is ludicrous.
The only suspension associated with the airline on record follows the July 10th tragedy announced by the Ministry of Energy, Utilities, and Aviation. according to records found by Eyewitness News between 2023 and 2024. On October 2nd, 2023, the passenger door of another Beechcraft 99 opened shortly after the aircraft took off from Nassau for Staniel Key. The aircraft returned safely to Linden Pinland International Airport and no injuries were reported. And in July 2024, video showed a Flamingo Air aircraft moving on the ground with an emergency exit open. The airline said a passenger opened the exit while the aircraft was taxiing after landing and the pilot immediately stopped. The airline suspension was lifted shortly after. The suspension and subsequent lift all occurred while Devard Francis served as chairman of the Civil Aviation Authority. Francis, who demitted office last month, was asked for information regarding the suspension.
I don't want to say right now because, like I said, it's still under active investigation.
Okay.
And the crash is under active investigation, and I don't want to impede on that investigation.
As for the Independence tragedy, Chief Investigator of Air Accidents Kendall Dorsett Jr. confirming that based on wreckage site and investigations conducted thus far, all victims died on impact except for Macaro Roll. And to the question posed regarding whether the aircraft caught fire before it hit the ground,
based off of what you have thus far, evidence collected, based on the examination of the scene,
yes.
If that plane caught on fire before it hit the ground, before it made impact?
We have some indications, but again, I'd rather present that at the preliminary report phase at least, but we have some indications, so yeah.
Dorsett Jr. says the next steps will happen abroad.
And once we recover the aircraft, that's when we transport it to the United States. And so that's the main piece of evidence is the aircraft itself. It's mainly the engines.
With CAB also under scrutiny as debate surrounds their role in proper checks of aircraft safety, Francis left these words.
We incessantly inspect all planes to see that, situations and circumstances and such would never take place.
Officials say a preliminary report on the accident is expected to be released on August 10th, with a final report approximately to follow 12 months later. Linton Ritchie Jr., Eyewitness News.
Well, we jump in right there this evening. Exactly what was happening with aviation. You heard Devard Francis, who I also spoke with last year. He told me many times when he grounded or suspended that aircraft or had some investigation going on. But then, obviously, the green light was given again for them to fly. I mean, did Flamingo Air make amazing improvements and enhancements and perhaps new aircraft and we're going to just jump in right there. The Hot Topics panel joins me. Good evening to you, Michael Turnquest and Ellington Ferguson.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas. Pleasure to be back.
Good evening, Shanique, and good evening, Bahamas. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you both here. Gentlemen, let's just begin with just the sadness of this and what many people feel is so unnecessary, preventable, what took place on Independence Day last Friday.
Shanique, it's unfortunate, condolences to the family, in this time, I think the Bahamas hurts, with, so much young individuals, especially those who carry our culture, whether it be rake and scrape, soca, the music that they just, and the life that they brought to a lot of people just with their, presence, so it's unfortunate. But, I think, when we look at a tragedy and something that has happened with one particular airline over multiple times, and this is not, or that airline has not been looked into, it really raised a lot of question marks, which a lot of people are asking now. I mean, even when we could even go a little further, because when we look at other airlines that sub out this particular airline, and when persons are at airports and they see another airline show up to collect them, people sometimes they're like in shock and horror. Because from what I understand, and it's alleged that the first flight that Flamingo Air sent out that morning was actually chartered by Bahamas Air, from what I understand. But that's these are things that we really need when you look at safety checks. Mm-hmm. That really needs to be.
So you're saying, what choice does a passenger have when they are going to be redirected to another airline, you're saying?
And they should have the choice. They should have the choice and also be refunded if they choose not to take that particular alternative that you would have given them. Because a lot of people are not adjusted. They charter or they buy tickets on Bahamas Air because that's what they feel safe with. They prefer to fly in a Dash 8 or whatever the ATRs are, and they prefer not to go in a 10-seater, 8-seater, or something that they feel as though is not airworthy. And these are things that, I've rode on a lot of small planes in my time, and some planes I was like, thank God I made it there, but I won't never do it again. And, and I won't call, any airlines out, but at the end of the day, we really need to take safety very seriously, especially in the the airline industry. I mean, this has been happening too many times it's happened, and, we continue like, it's going to be okay. We check this. These things, maybe we need to look at the age of these planes. Maybe a lot of these planes are not worthy to be flying. The frame of the plane, the engines, are they past the hours?
You remember some video and images before Ellington where there were same type aircraft where the bolts were totally visible?
Yeah, this is such an unfortunate situation on all fronts that should have never happened. This was absolutely and totally avoidable. And like you alluded to, Shanique, yeah, there were videos circulating where cut nails was used for the bolts in some part of the hinges. Someone told me they had door hinges holding up one of the door. They weld the door hinges to hold the plane up. I saw a video that someone posted with as they flying up in the air, fuel oozing out of the wing. It was just so many things. So then
let's look at aviation.
I was about to go there.
Yeah, it has several arms to it. So who knows what is general aviation, civil aviation, this aviation, the next one, and then the others. How is it that you're going to suspend or ground an airline, and then what determines the green light?
Shanique, I think we need to take a second look at how we do what we do in aviation, how we investigate, and what extent we go to, and what are the safety measures. We need to take a second look at how we do these things, how we measure these things, because this is not a mechanic under the almond tree that's going to fix my car, and then I go drive down as far as Lewis Street, and I got to call him again. You can't, Lewis Street up there, okay? And so we've got to take a second look at how we do aviation. I heard Mr. Francis spoke about what he done while he was there, but I don't think that aviation in the Bahamas is stringent enough on these small carriers. There's a lot of stuff happen out there, especially at that general aviation area, and so we need to tighten things up. We need to make sure that the traveling public feels safe going on a 10-seater or a 20-seater.
How about, gentlemen, the fact that it really is really a jitney service that's being operated in the sky?
Absolutely.
Particularly when you look at what's been happening for many years with airlines or those little charter flights like that.
Shanique, I remember sometimes traveling general aviation, and you have some of those pilots at times, they put in just enough fuel to get them there and get back. There's no overage in terms of in the event that they have the circle, let's say bad weather, and they have the circle around 3-4 times before landing, and that's just a normal day. At the end of the day, making sure that these guys hold, licenses that or trained properly in the planes that they fly. Because, sometimes, it's not always the plane, sometimes it's pilot error, and I think the investigation will bring out a lot of things as we move along. Whenever the plane is brought back or the findings come back. But there's a lot. Because
then who gives the checks? You see, and major aircraft and airlines, there are so many checks and balances. I imagine luggage is weighted, yes, right? Yeah. Or weighed rather. Equipment, whatever it is that's going to the aircraft is going to carry as well. It is said, and this is just it is said, that there were more passengers than was lawful on the aircraft. We will know all of that when the investigation, obviously, the first part of that investigation is made public next month. Meanwhile, as the investigation into the deadly Flamingo Air crash continues, aviation officials are addressing questions about whether the aircraft was equipped with a flight data recorder, commonly known as a black box. Officials say the Cessna 402B was not required to carry a black box under existing aviation regulations, adding that its absence is not expected to hinder the investigation into the crash.
Yeah, so that's air traffic. Whatever recordings they have, we have. So that's what that refers to. Whatever ATC has, we're going to get. And we started to receive a tranche of recordings and files now. You refer correctly that aircraft of this size are not required by regulations to have a cockpit voice recorder or flight data recorder, and so that's a norm. And so persons or investigators are aware that that piece of information you would not have access to, for say, if it was a bigger aircraft. But certainly the evidence that we can't collect, it does give us an indication, and it provides enough information for us to come up with a determination of probable cause and other findings. So that's really not, it would be an advantage, or definitely an advantage to have it, but that does not mean that we cannot come up with a probable cause. That would not prevent us from doing so.
Dorset said with no black box on board the flight, it does not hinder the investigation. As you heard him say a moment ago, he says that other critical sources of evidence will help to determine exactly what took place on Friday. I want to ask you both as we wrap up this segment in a second. Let's just look at the fact that it was said initially they could not even determine the identity of one other person. Again, because the flight plan and perhaps the names of passengers and whatnot not being in place. Again, who gives the final check to say this flight is cleared for takeoff and that everything on board is as it should be?
You know, Shanique, I would have assumed that this flight would have left our domestic terminal. I mean, what if the manifest is not correct? That's unacceptable. Especially, I can see that something that happened at general aviation, but to happen at the domestic terminal within Linden Airport, that's unacceptable. I mean, it is obviously the airline is not following the protocols, and they're just, I guess, it's a cowboy show.
And Shanique, again, it speaks to the oversight that is needed for these type of services that we have with these smaller carriers. I don't think that, and some of them will complain if the authorities try to do it, but I don't think if a Bahamas Air or American Airlines or a Delta need to have manifests and need to have certain checks and balances before a flight move. I think if you're going from here to Eleuthera, you should have certain checks and balances about the weight and who all is on that plane. We should know everybody on that plane. And even to some extent, depends on the carrier seat assignment. That is very important when you come to identifying people in crashes. And so we need not to relax the law because, they're getting ready to Andros, they're getting ready to Eleuthera. And that has been the attitude over the years.
It seems as though that's just been the practice for so long. They go right there. It's 12 minutes, you know.
But we need to treat it as a flight, whether going to North Andros or you're going to New York. It's a flight, and all of these are the protocols of a flight that's leaving LPIA going to wherever.
But you know, Shanique, we always, the question is, what if you don't get there? Okay, of course, that flight didn't get there. Now, what's going to happen is that, the investigation findings are going to come back, 3-6 months down the road, people are going to forget, and then we're going to move right back to business as usual. Whereas, manifests are not correct, things of that sort. Maybe there needs to be another relevant authority overseeing whether it be audits to making sure.
You asking for another one?
Something has to happen.
Do you know there are multiple authorities involved in aviation?
Let me point out something though. I remember
obviously they're not doing their job.
And some people they were beyond the headlines. I remember from the airport. I think it was a pilots union or something. And I think, and I spoke a while ago about we needing to do some things differently with the whole operation of aviation out there. They were telling the people out there that fly these planes about some retraining, and they need training about flying in mountainous areas and stuff. So some things are out of whack.
This is when
some things that we should be doing, we're not doing.
The pilots were quite vexed.
Yes.
Because they were being asked to sort of, in my word, upskill.
Right.
However, a lot of the training was not applicable to flying in the
Absolutely.
Bahamas. But did the upskilling ever happen?
That's another good question.
Because if you could go to the airport and jump in a plane and fly it, who again, as I said, who gives the check, the green check that says, good, pilot good,
cleared,
everything good,
all clear,
weight good, plane balanced,
all clear.
Fly.
But then, it also goes back to these airports, whether it be at North Andros, South Andros, and other airports that just don't have trained professionals there to accept these flights and making sure, hey, let me see your manifest. What is it? You get 10 people on your manifest, but you get 11 people in the plane. Maybe there needs to be on all of our local airports or Family Island airports, trained personnel to check all these planes that are coming in.
I absolutely agree. Listen, don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to take a look at BPL. I was surprised today to hear someone say, man, our power was off since after 3 this morning. And I said, what? Beyond the Headlines is back right after this.
Hey, it's your boy Charlie Bahama here at Superwash, Superwash's newest spokesmodel. And I'm here to tell you about Superwash's large capacity washers and dryers for all your big loads.
I know I see that Charlie Banana coming here just now.
Uh-oh, luckily it's also big enough for me to hide it.
I thought he was right over here where these large capacity washer and dryers is. It's big enough now to handle your big loads, you know. Yeah, like your comfort on your blanket. But just look at those. Somebody forget to turn on the dryer. Oh, stop! Help! You hear something? Yeah, that's the sound of clean. Superwash washes you, presses you, and entertains you 24/7.
When the craving hits, there's only one thing everybody agrees on. Hot, crispy, Wendy's chicken tenders. Made to satisfy every bite. Whether it's served as a slider or wrap, it's always perfectly seasoned, perfectly crunchy, and always cooked fresh. From lunch with friends to family moments worth sharing. For chicken tenders you're gonna know by name, gotta be Wendy's.
Here at CBS Bahamas and the CBS Pro Store, we believe in our prices. That's why we offer our price match guarantee. If you find any of our items being sold for a lower price at any of our competitors, whether that's online or in store, let us know about it and we'll beat the price right there on the spot. No one does it like CBS Bahamas. Learn more at cbsbahamas.com.
Frustration continues to grow among Bahamas Power and Light customers as rolling blackouts continue to disrupt homes and businesses across New Providence. BPL, in an apology to consumers, said that crews are working to safely and quickly restore power. The company issued an update through its WhatsApp channel, thanking residents for their patience and understanding. Today, BPL Chief Operating Officer Anthony Christie provided an update on the extended outages, addressing customers' concerns through the company's social media platforms.
The main reason for this was a cable fault along the Blue Hill and Soldier Road corridor. So the teams are presently located that cable fault and they'll be addressing that today with hope of restoring all those customers within the next 24 hours. It is a major work, so it'll take some time. So we appreciate the patience of the public in terms of us getting this done. We did have some weather issues overnight. Some low voltage lines were torn down, and so the teams are also repairing that. So again, a number of things are happening on the system, but we are very active. We're very busy right now, along with PGC in terms of working to restore all customers that are presently off. And again, we understand frustration and we appreciate the patience. Our customer service teams are taking the calls. We're trying to address and ensure that we address every single issue that's on the system.
Michael and Ellington, BPL is in the middle of a very heavy lift. We heard them announce the energy reform last year. They have been working steadily at that, but this summer they have been hit hard. One, the demand has increased for usage. It's been the hottest summer on record, maybe ever. But this doesn't lessen the vexedness of consumers.
Shanique, while I understand what BPL is trying to do or what they're doing as it relates to change and bring reformation to the whole energy system here, I don't think that they have handled this whole process well. I think there's a lot of things that they could have done differently. For example, just now, he said, he told the people that there was a cable fault. I mean, I think, Bahaman, if you just go on, I think it should be a little more detailed. Make people to understand what you're dealing with, the wind and the weather factor. I can
So you're
understand.
saying communicate more effectively?
Communicate more effectively. A cable fault. What that mean to me? What that mean to Shaniqua and Michael?
Burn up cable.
Nothing. I get no understanding. I have no appreciation for what he just said to that matter. He spoke about the matter of the weather. A lot of people don't know that we had that little rain last night, and it was some heavy wind. I was 4:35 a.m. My son and I was driving along Meadow Street, and we almost ran into a tree that laid across the road. A whole tree was blown down, so there was some heavy wind last night. And
so maybe if who knew that? So maybe if BPL can get out there, somehow your messaging has to be more right to the people, so that they understand.
I can say this. I mean, from the last time we had that outage for almost 12 hours or more, I've seen them trying to be more communicative in terms of getting their message out. What I found interesting last night we had a lot of heavy winds. That cable fault, that's something that happened underground. I was very surprised that the current stayed on in most areas, because above, why we didn't really lose much above, no wires dropped, anything of that sort. So I mean, I think some of the work that they've been doing in terms of whether it be maintenance, has done some justice, because last night was like a mini hurricane. From when I got up around at 4 or 5 o'clock, I was like, wow, this seems to be, branches is flying. But I do agree, at the end of the day, layman terms is what it needs to be. I think sometimes when you have engineers and persons who have been caught up in that industry for so long, they're not able to communicate down to the small man who, all he knows, at the end of the day, he's sitting in his bed sweating. And, hours go by, and they just don't understand a cable fault, what that means to me. I just need to know at 5 p.m. my current should be back on, or at whatever time. But, these days we've just been getting a lot of, the timeline is unknown at this time. We'll have to continue, we'll update you at a later time. And I think people are frustrated because at the end of the day, they want timelines. They want to know 5 p.m.,
Absolutely.
We should expect whatever it may be. It'd be half current, something.
Meanwhile, as the country continues to battle energy challenges, New Providence Gas has broken ground on its liquefied natural gas facility at Clifton Pier. Prime Minister Davis, in his remarks at the groundbreaking, asserted that it represented a new chapter in how the Bahamas generates electricity, following years of aging infrastructure and recent widespread power outages.
Families felt the inconvenience, and communities across New Providence saw what happens when systems are interrupted. Your frustration is real, and your concerns are valid. This has been one of the hottest summers on record. And across the globe, power grids are straining under the weight of extreme heat, surging demand, storms, and infrastructure that was never built for the pressures we face today. That tells us this is not a challenge unique to the Bahamas, but it does not make what happened here any easier to accept. From the outset, we have chosen to be straightforward with you about the true condition of our energy sector. And this administration was elected on a promise of progress, to finish what previous governments left unfinished, and to confront problems that had been deferred for far too long.
Michael and Ellington, Prime Minister Davis, speaking of that LNG project that was officially, officially on its way, at the Clifton Pier site. Obviously, we are expecting a lot from that. Again, it's very technical language, a technical industry, but really the simple thing is people want to be able to depend on consistent supply of electricity.
Absolutely, Shanika. I must praise the Prime Minister and his government for bringing LNG and this effort to bring liquefied natural gas here in the Bahamas. We've been talking about it for some time, and now we're having it implemented. They're really getting the work started. I think this is going to be a great benefit for the Bahamian public. It's going to be a transformative thing for our energy sector, and hopefully the masses of the Bahamian people will benefit from it for consistent energy and the cost of energy to be reduced in our households and in our businesses.
And I agree. I think, the Prime Minister spoke to generation, and I hope, generation is one thing in terms of aging infrastructure, which we're looking at upgrading, but I hope the distribution is also being worked on at the same time in parallel to make sure, because, you can generate all the energy you want, but if the infrastructure and the distribution plans aren't able to keep up and give you good, continuous, clean energy, then that becomes a whole nother story. But I'm happy, we've been talking about LNG now for, I think, almost 20 years, and, it's finally reached the Bahamas, and hopefully,
Leslie was here.
We see savings inside the Bahamian people's pockets.
Yeah,
that's what it all boils down to. My bill was $100 last year.
Yeah.
I want to see it be $50, $25.
Yes, simple. I thank you, gentlemen, very much. Michael Turnquest, Ellington Ferguson, thank you very, very much. When we come back, we're going to look at the real nuts and bolts of aviation. BAxIN is here. Remember BAxIN, who launched this amazing effort to be able to bring emergency response now to Family Island airports. Where is that? Where is that project? Is one ambulance on Andros, for example? Where? Auckland? Well, let's just say Andros. Where are the ambulances? What is happening? We get an update from BAxIN after this break. Stay close.
Families felt the inconvenience and
Welcome to Paradise Premium Foods, where exceptional taste meets everyday convenience. Right in the heart of Hurricane Hole Plaza, whether you're planning a beachside brunch, an intimate dinner, or simply restocking your favorites, we offer only the finest selection of local and imported goods, handpicked for quality, freshness, and flavor. At Paradise Premium Foods, shopping is effortless, service is personal, and every visit feels like a treat. From gourmet meals to go to organic essentials and indulgent treats, this is your neighborhood market elevated. Live well, eat better. Discover Paradise Premium Foods, now open at Hurricane Hole Plaza, Paradise Island. Paradise Premium Foods, taste the difference.
Edenwell has expanded their testing menu. We now offer blood work, drug screening, and so much more. Our hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., located on 11 Madera Street. We are here for all of your laboratory needs, with fast and reliable lab work done by our friendly and knowledgeable staff. Let us help you take the needed steps to stay in the know about your health. Let's keep working towards a healthier you. Stay Eden well.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you all here. BAxIN joins me now. Of course, you all know BAxIN. BAxIN is this sort of multi-agency under one umbrella entity here in the nation that was launched last year to address just what we're talking about, what the whole nation is fixated on right now, and that is aviation safety, emergency response in the event of an aviation emergency, and so much more. But I want to begin this evening because Robert Caron joins me. He is CEO of BAxIN. Michael Strawn is also here from BAxIN. He is an executive COO, but he's also the ambassador to the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. Good evening to both of you. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Hi, Shanique. Thanks for having us.
It's good to have you both here. I want to say, Robert, especially, I guess you can lead off in this. You've been impacted personally by last Friday's crash. Can you tell us how that came about?
Well, sadly, we lost another DJ, talented DJ Fresh. It's the third staff member I've lost in the last probably 30 years in incidences like this, and it's a terrible tragedy for him and his family, and all the other persons that perished in the crash. But it brings home, just on a more personal level, that to our team and to the 100 Jams family, and to his girlfriend, who was informed of the news when she was in London. So it's a very personal thing, and obviously, you know, I'll defer to His Excellency Michael on the regulatory, but I can speak on behalf of us all that you know, words don't describe the depth of the loss that you experience at times like this, and you know, we have to make sure that we put in place procedures that mitigate these in the future.
I absolutely agree. We will find out exactly where BAxIN is in its effort. I mean, you all made a huge deal. You appeared on this show a handful of times talking about exactly how the Bahamas and the airspace will be safer based on your new cutting-edge technology. We want to know where that is and what's happening. But I want you to listen to this first and respond to it as we move forward. Many believe that Marco Roll, the 10th victim in that deadly crash, could have survived longer if he had received critical care on the island before being airlifted. But the North Andros Family Island Administrator, Beverly Larimore, argues nothing could have been done.
The crash was about a half a mile into bushes, into forest, into a pine forest where no vehicle had access to. So there was no way you can say if an ambulance came quicker, he would have been saved. He had severe burns about his body, and we had the medical personnel to him within 15 minutes of that crash. The ambulance was called as soon as we confirmed that there was a crash and located the crash site. They went and tracked through bushes and pine yards to get to Mr. Roll. He was given medical attention and brought out of the bushes, put into the ambulance, and went to the airport where they were trying to stabilize him to put him on a flight to take him into Nassau, where he succumbed to his injuries. Even if we had 1 million ambulances and fire trucks, they would not have been able to access the fire crash. When we had the crash site, the ambulance was on scene within minutes of being called, and so that response was timely. In terms of a fire truck, our fire truck is currently down. We had experienced 2 years ago a 9-week wildfire, and that put a toll on the old fire truck that we did have. I wouldn't say, I think it would be a waste of resources to have a fleet of ambulances on hand. If there is an instance where we do need another ambulance, Central Andros is an hour away, and we can always call on them to assist.
Well, there you have it, the island administrator there, Beverly Larimore, speaking on Family Island matters and how things shape up and look on Family Islands. I imagine Andros, even North Andros, can do with more than one ambulance, but North Andros received a new ambulance last year. She said that ambulance was there on the scene within minutes of being called, but of course there was nothing that could have been done. But Robert and Michael, I would like you both to respond to this, because you all have, with the creation and introduction to the Bahamas of BAxIN, a wonderful vision that is to outfit airports just like that, not just with the necessary equipment, but also trained personnel. Your thoughts?
So yes, so I speak on behalf of the Deputy Chairman of the PHA as well as the founder of BAxIN. So with the greatest respect to the administrator, you're wrong, manifestly wrong, and demonstrably so. Ambulances that are for aviation are spec'd for aviation. The PHA and the ambulances and the Department of Public Health are not spec'd for them. The paramedics and the trauma surgeons, now I'm not saying that they could or could not, I don't know the particulars, but you have to have those. Any airport does not depend on community type ambulances to provide. The ambulances that we have that have been deployed to Megawon and other are much higher spec'd. They come with EMTs and paramedics. They come with all the latest equipment, and they have doctors and who are trauma surgeons. It is impossible to actually present that to a community-based, and they did the best they could. I'm not disputing that. But that does not mean that we should do this. In every other country in the world, there is a different caliber for aviation than there is for community, and that's what we're saying. The PHA is not designed for that. Trust me, ma'am, I ran it. I helped run it for many years. You can ask Andrew Edwards, the chairman now. It could not possibly be providing those services, and it's not designed for that, but they did a wonderful job. But what we need to do is to provide a requisite level of service for the aviation sector that is, and I'll defer the rest to His Excellency Michael to really come on.
Michael?
Yeah, I mean, to add to Robert's sentiment, respectfully, I mean, we understand that the information we have thus far on what took place on Independence Day, it points to a catastrophe that, look, I mean, there's very little that anyone could have done in that situation. However, I think there's too many people right now in defense mode, right? These are situations where you learn from it, you utilize the resources that are available to you. The reality of it is that North Andros is a hub for Western, and who have a very close relationship with the principals of and have a long-standing relationship with. What we're trying to do is prevent, as much as we can, the loss of life in the event that an accident happens where circumstances provide. And so I don't fully agree with her on that regard. And
well, okay, so she is speaking as the island administrator. So let's just talk about BAxIN, because as far as I'm aware, one ambulance has been shipped to one family island so far. These ambulances have been in country since the end of last year, I believe. What's happening? Why are where are the ambulances that you all promised and that have been shipped? Because I've seen the images, I've seen them. Why wasn't North Andros Airport outfitted with an aviation specialty ambulance as is now in country?
Well, I mean, Robert is going to chime in on the other side of it, but the reality of it is that there's a very long process for deployment. The initial rollout plan covers 5 airports. The Bahamas is a very unique situation, and I don't admire the government's problem that they have is that there's 26 islands and airports that are spread out. Imagine having to manage, maintain infrastructure, and provide the level of service that LPIA has for all of these airports. So what BAxIN is trying to do is to assist with that. However, the deployment plan did not cover North Andros, unfortunately, in the first phase. North Andros, Central Andros, and the South Andros area, Congo Town, is a part of the overall plan, which encompasses all of the major airports in the country. And we're going to get to them. But the initial rollout plan was only for 5 airports initially, as we are waiting for the other ambulances to actually come off the production line and be shipped. And Robert can add some commentary on that.
So yes, so thank you for that. So, as you know, deploying these requires, and by the way, I want to just compliment, I think I should compliment, take time to compliment, you have Dr. Romo, who's excellent, you have the airport authority, who's excellent, and you have some challenges with the Civil Aviation Department and as well as BANZI. But in all, we've had BANZA, which is the guys who do air traffic control. But in all of these things, the problem is that you can bring in the ambulances, you have the HOAs, and you have what I'm calling a civil service issue, in that the speed at which private sector can move is not the speed at which government moves. And the problem is that we are not awaiting anymore, but we were awaiting MOUs so that we can have the doctors and the physicians co-located with the Department of Public Health, so that at these locations you have aviation-trained persons, but that you have community service so that you can actually roll out. So the ambulances are here, they are spec'd, the paramedics are here, and they are ready to go. We have finally, the new Attorney General has indicated that the things will be signed and will be deploying rapidly. But Shanique, you cannot expect 26 airports, 173,000 square miles to be done in one day. And the sad part is that, we are behind the curve and having to move very forward. I think one of your commentators said that, the car does not fall out of, his car when he's driving on the road does not fall out of the sky. But I think one of the other issues is its enforcement. Now, Mike and I might differ on our opinion on this, and I respect, obviously, Michael's more expertise on me, but I'm just going to say, listen, when I travel around the roads on the weekends, I don't see a single bike that's registered or wearing a helmet. I now have problems with the fact that those guys at the general aviation, let's just face facts. If they have a private aircraft, you shouldn't be doing commercial operations unless that would be the equivalent of hacking. The guy picks up a... Jitney. Yeah. And then I'm sure that's the same thing. These calls for the minister to resign are preposterous. The minister is not responsible after all these weeks. It's the agencies that have to deliver.
That's been in place before this minister.
Correct.
Listen, the point is get the work done. I have not seen those calls. But the point is, though, it doesn't start with calling for a minister to resign. No. It starts with ensuring that minister and all the other agents in all the arms of civil aviation to be able to enforce the law and stop having general aviation and any other part of the airport operate like you standing on the corner trying to wave down a bus.
Absolutely. And as someone who was seeking to see Mike L. Hi, guys. I told you I'd say hello. And I'll be down there very soon. And who spends a lot of time on these small planes in my life. We were just down there the other day, and we had to divert from Acklands and go to Inagua because the weather was bad. We were supposed to go to Mayaguana. We had to divert from Mayaguana because the diversion point was Turks and Caicos, which was also under, and then we had to go to Crooked Island, and so it was a character. But we had contingency plans. Sometimes they don't do these things, and I think the problem is the enforcement. It's enforcement, guys. Because if and Michael and I will perhaps disagree on this, but if you can't do everybody, but if they know that someone's going to have a problem, like your license can be revoked, then they're not going to skylark. And the Bahamian public need to have confidence that if you jump on a plane, the guy has the requisite, whatever it needs to requisite, I don't know, but the requisite needs. But I can tell you this, that BAxIN is going to make sure we're going to track the flights, we're going to provide the weather for the guys, and we're going to make sure that if there's an issue, that we are going to have the best quality service there that is requisite to the rest of the world. I can't guarantee outcomes, but I can tell you this, that we're going to have proper trauma guys, we're going to have paramedics, we're going to have the medicines necessary to treat the guys, and they're not going to be like our DJs and other family members on the back of any trucks no more. That's just unacceptable in 2026 for me as a Bahamian. I don't know what the rest of you.
It is, especially when BAxIN has rolled out an incredible plan that help not just have us meet international ICAO standards, but also just help preserve life, help obviously with the quick prompt response that's necessary and response that'll make a difference. Now, I want to know, how is it looking? Mayaguana is the one island that this has been rolled out already, right? How is that looking on Mayaguana? The fact that you have this aviation specialty ambulance, is it properly outfitted? Is there medicine? Is there staff?
Yeah, it's outfitted. We have everything in place down there. We're starting to ramp up the staffing for that. We're building the facilities at the other airports that need to be rolled out, because the reality of it is that a lot of these airports don't even have buildings to house it. So part of the delay was we had to engage in construction to house the ambulances while they're there at our facilities. And as we tour the rest of the Bahamas, we're actively looking at all the airports that's under construction and having our teams go down and actually plan out where all this equipment is going to go in conjunction with the airport authority. So even though that's the first one out the gate, we do have a substantial rollout plan out of all of the regulatory, all the administrative matters have been taken care of. where we, over the coming weeks, we'll be ramping up the rollout, staffing, and also making sure that the airports in the first tranche of our rollout plan is completed before the fourth quarter this year.
And I'd just like to add one thing. The Airport Authority, Paul Bevins, Paul Rutherford, Director Forbes and Simmons, and Nico Davis have been wonderful. Nico Davis runs the crash and search and rescue, the firefighters that respond to these. They've really been wonderful and the great working relationship. So I don't want the public to think, and Dr. Romer and obviously the guys we're working with, I don't want the public to think that it's all bad. We just have to identify what it is that we can do to prevent future performance. And listen, Michael's expertise and putting the expertise of Dr. Romer, that's really the real things that really need to matter. I deal more in the operational side and making sure that things go, but Michael runs BAxIN and stuff. And so I want the people to feel confident that when you get on a plane, that the guys have done everything right, and if something were to go wrong, we're going to be there. And that's what really, when I come back, I want to make sure that we show you, and maybe you and your colleagues and commentators can come down and we can show you the next one when we deploy, so that people can have faith that when you get to these islands, because after all, travel is not an option, it's essential in our country.
Yeah.
And we as Bahamians, especially those that go to the Southern Islands and love those Southern Islands, we ain't going in no big jet. We ain't going in no Bahamas Air, Western Air. We taking you guys, so we need you guys to be at the top shape.
Absolutely.
I mean, to add to Robert's point, I think too, from the regulatory standpoint, the support has to be there on all levels. I think the positive that's going to come out of this crash, unfortunately, is the fact that it's going to be a realization that the Civil Aviation Authority needs more resources at its disposal, financially, personnel, to properly carry out its mandate. And I know the Director General over there, she's championing this and wants to see this done. And I think right now, all of the stakeholders, including BAxIN and all of the relevant parties, have to come together and ensure that we can do whatever we need to do to prevent another tragedy like this happening again. And unfortunately, what happened on Friday is very eerily reminiscent of what happened in October 2010. And I know the pilot on that aircraft, and we all knew persons on board the aircraft as well. So every time something like this happens, it's a very somber reminder that we have to take these types of things seriously. And as someone that's been around the industry for a very long time, I can tell you that it's not one major failure that is the result of what happened on Friday. It's a lot of small little things that added up in the chain that created the dynamic that, we now have to face that reality. 10 lives have been lost, and it's going to reshape how the domestic aviation industry is done going forward. But unfortunately, we have to, as the public, have to take responsibility as well. You have to be able to say, look, I'm not going to just take this flight because this guy is saying, yeah, going to Andros now,
Absolutely.
Let's go. Because you're enabling these people to feel as if there's a market for it. And so there is a personal responsibility as well to say, look, I'm going to do things this way and go with the reputable carriers.
So you are calling on members of the public to also be very discerning.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, look, I don't get on the aircraft unless I'm comfortable with the carrier. And even when we go to the Southern Islands, the company that we use on a consistent basis, Exclusive Aviation, we have a good relationship with the owner, the principal, the pilots, and we trust them with our lives when we go down there. Now, we travel more frequently than the average Bahamian into these areas, but I just implore persons that, look, sometimes that $80 jump over the puddle flight, it's not worth the risk sometimes. And the pilots and the persons operating these aircraft, they also have to take it more seriously, because those few dollars ain't worth somebody's life.
You're absolutely right. Let's talk about lessons and accountability, even for BAxIN, who is in the midst of this rollout to be able to outfit Family Island airports and by extension Family Island communities, and then by extension the country. What lessons, accountability, what's looking ahead, what is it that you want to see happen in the overall aviation industry of which BAxIN plays a role?
I think, speaking for myself, I would like to see the coming together of all persons, but the Pilot Association, the regulators, ourselves, and others, because we have to understand that we're doing this for our people, our nation, and ourselves. And we cannot allow one incident. If the lesson that is today, we cannot allow their legacy to go in vain. And I hope that we can all come together for a better Bahamas.
Michael, a quick word?
For me personally, I have to agree with Robert, but this is something that's been decades in the making. I do want to see the aviation sector in the Bahamas grow. I want to see it thrive, but I want to see things done the right way. And to echo Robert's sentiments, we can't allow the lives lost on Friday and lives lost previously to be done in vain. We have to demand more, and we want to see better, and BAxIN is starting that by putting in the relevant infrastructure that pertains to what we're doing to assist the pilots to operate more safely in the region, and we hope that others take the mantle and do the same in the areas that they control.
And just one last thing. Yeah. BPL, if you need to know the weather, give us a shout.
You need to perhaps join hands with BPL as well. I know, right? I thank you all very, very much. Of course, at the top of tonight's show, Laurencia Smith, who was live at that memorial, my panel, Michael Turnquest and Ellington Ferguson, and then, of course, the executives of BAxIN, including Ambassador Michael Strawn. Thank you both, Michael and Robert, for being here this evening. And a huge thank you to all of you this evening for tuning in. It's been awesome having you along. I look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.